Welcome to the Witcher Lorecast, the show that explores the vast lore behind the Witcher games, show, and books. Witchers, welcome back. Holy crap, Toasty, your hair's all white. What happened? He's got a goofy grin on his face. So this is your host, Tom, or Robots. Toasty is sitting here on the screen in front of me with the whitest flowing locks of hair. Toasty.
I hope my mic picked up my sigh. Sigh of frustration.
Is that what that sound was?
Yes.
Oh man. Look at you.
That was so cringe, Tom. What the?
Look at you. Look at that white hair.
For those of you that heard the pre-show talk, you know that this is not surprising at all.
But we got to play it up.
Talking about my hair for like 10 minutes now.
Don't ruin the magic of podcasting.
That's my job here, is to ruin the magic and tell people about The Witcher.
Fine. I'm going to put the pre-show chat at the end of the episode so you guys can hear us talk about how much we don't want to small talk with other people we don't really know. But Toasty's sitting here with white hair and it's phenomenal. So if you haven't seen the live show, we're actually recording this a few days late because poor Toasty came down with a stomach bug. I hope you're feeling better, buddy.
It was the extra mutations.
It was the extra mutations. Yeah, in order to get his hair to change colors.
Well,
yeah. And so this is a Wednesday. Normally we record on Monday nights. So if you want to join us on any of the Robots Radio channels, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, you can join us on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. But if you're not there here currently for the live show, then you can always check this out on YouTube later on the Witcher Lorecast channel and check out the white luxurious locks of Toasty. Of Toaster Ventil,
like silver grayish, but it was like it was close as they were going to get for me. So
yeah, I totally messed up your last name too. But anyway, hey, Toasty.
My last name, what?
Toasty of Toasterville, Shire,
Villopolis,
yes. Okay, but anyway, we're back and we're done with season 2 recaps, and I'm super excited because on today's episode, we're talking about what or who is the Wild Hunt. And we're getting back into lore, baby. We're diving into the deep end. We're talking about the big baddies, and this is going to be awesome.
The big baddies.
The big baddies.
The worst baddies.
The worst baddies. The baddest of the bads.
Mm-hmm.
The bad to the bone, as the boomers like to say.
Bad to the bone. Oh gosh.
Bad. That's what the boomers say. That's one of their songs. That's one of those songs that the boomers like. Yeah, that's one of their generation.
I actually like that song too, though.
Bad. That's what they say. Mm-hmm.
This has started so gracefully.
Yep. Hey, where are we going to start?
All right, so we're going to start. I mean, we're just gonna get into it. Who's the Wild Hunt? What's the Wild Hunt? Yeah. What are they all about?
Who or what are they?
Because we saw them at the end. For those of you who haven't played The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, what are you doing? What are you even doing?
Yeah, if you are a TV watcher or a book reader and you're not a video gamer, go play the game. You don't have to be super good at games. You can put it on easy mode.
You play the game. They have a story mode. It's like super easy.
Yeah, super easy. Just go play the game. Make decisions, meet the people, fight the monsters on easy mode, and experience what it's like to be Geralt of Rivia. And a little bit of, being Ciri. There's some being Ciri in there. And just experience it. Because the Wild Hunt is a big focus of The Witcher 3. Because that's the subtitle of the game, The Wild Hunt.
Yep. So, if you play The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, you'd be very familiar with them, and for those of you that have just watched the show, we saw them at the very end, so this will at least give you a little bit more insight into them. So the Wild Hunt, or the Wraiths of Morhogg, as they call them in Skellige, was widely believed to be a group of specters galloping across the sky. Which we didn't see that exactly in season 2. They were galloping. They sort of did, and then they were on the ground. It was a little bit of a mix.
A little bit of floating.
Described by the common folk as a cavalcade of wraiths on undead horses galloping across the sky and serving as an omen of war. But that's not them though. That's not what they are. Instead,
they're not.
They are actually, and this is going to take us back to the conjunction. They are a group of A&L elves from Tirnalia, the capital of A&L, which is a different sphere entirely. Mm-hmm. So in terms of in elven terms, the sphere, the continent, which is the world that we are on, is described as the world of the Aen-Shi. And during the conjunction, some of the elves that were on the continent sphere decided to hop off onto a different one when the worlds kind of came close together. So we don't just have the merging of these spheres and things coming from other spheres onto the continent, like we talked way back in the early episodes of this podcast, because we talked a lot about how like the monsters showed up and came to the continents. The humans showed up and came onto the continents, but there was also the movement of elves from the continent into other spheres. Mm-hmm. So there was actually mixing in both directions. Yes. So these elves that hopped into a different sphere, came to call themselves the A&L or the Alder folk. And this is where the origin of the Wild Hunt comes from, is from these elves and the particular activities that they like to engage in, which like it's going to be frisbee golf. Yeah, frisbee golf. So go ahead and I'll just drop this here. Content warning for the episode, because we're going to be talking about kidnapping and slavery a little bit, not in detail, but not frisbee golf. They may have, but
maybe also frisbee golf.
It was a minor pastime.
I see.
I don't think that they enjoyed frisbee golf as much as they enjoyed other things.
Maybe they make their slaves play for frisbee golf. It's like forced frisbee golf for their own enjoyment. I don't feel like they were that nice to their slaves, unfortunately. Right. Yeah, but I guess we'll find out. So the new sphere that they jumped into was inhabited by two intelligent species. We had humans and we had unicorns. So, that's cool. And the elves, the new arrivals, decided to wage war with both of them. Because why not? Because why not? So it's an interesting parallel to see here, because we see on the continent, the humans show up and they start waging war with the elder races. And in this, technically speaking, the elder races are the humans and the unicorns in this world because of the original inhabitants. So yeah, the war in two different spheres at this point. And so they wiped them out. They eradicated all the humans. So they're all gone? Yeah, they basically invaded. And so this is very similar to something like the Europeans invading the New World or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where they basically enslaved and took over and slowly eradicated entire cultures. And although there are some Native Americans left, I'd be willing to guess some 90-some percentage of the original population was just completely wiped out, right? Mm-hmm. But in this case, it's 100%. Yeah, that's what it sounds like, is that they eradicated all the humans. They didn't want to bother with them at all. Just wiped them all out. Complete genocide. Just boom, gone. Yeah. So after the war, the A&L thrived, built the palace and capital known as Tirnalia, where they resided, essentially grand city and location. And after some time, they decided that they wanted servants, or rather slaves, to
do things for them because, you know, they're all high and mighty and royalty now, presiding over this world that they conquered. So they want to, I guess they want to live in the lap of luxury and not have to worry about the tedious stuff.
Well, they should have planned this ahead of time and left some of the humans alive to be slaves for them. They did not think ahead.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, they're still waging war with the unicorns, which are the unicorns aren't well suited to be slaves, at least not in the ideas that they had for them.
Because they don't have opposable thumbs?
I would guess not. They don't even have any fingers. They're just hooves.
Yeah, just like hooves, which are basically big, like nails. It's like the middle nail of stuff. It's just like a really big middle nail, like at the end of your finger. That's what a hoof is. Yeah. So that's weird when you think about it.
But what they did do was that they had the unicorns open Ard Gaeth, the Gate of the Worlds, and King Oberon Mirtak. It's one of those words that we're going to have difficulty with. Ordered the creation of a cavalry unit to invade the other spheres and capture young humanoid inhabitants to serve as slaves. And this cavalry was named Dirg Ruadri, meaning the Red Riders, due to their red cloaks. And for his efficiency, ruthlessness, and strong magical abilities, General Aridin Brett Glass was appointed the leader of the Red Riders. And some of you, that name may be a little familiar.
Aridin,
Aridin, so they decided that they were like, we want slaves so bad. We're going to have the unicorns open up this gate that serves as a portal to the other worlds, and we're just going to kidnap people from other worlds.
Right. So I'm assuming that, unicorns are often associated with magic. And the reason, even though these unicorns didn't have opposable thumbs, they probably didn't have any like high level of technology, that they were inherently very magical creatures. And that's why they were so difficult to get rid of. And being that they were at war with them for so long, eventually they gained the upper hand and they were able to manipulate them into doing their will for them. And that included using their vast amount of magical power to open a portal to another sphere completely. Spheres completely. So this is something on the level of, like, spoilers, just in case you guys don't know yet, Siri level magic. Right? Like, this is not something that in the world of the continent, many other beings have access to, right? The mages of this continent, whether they're elves or men or whatever, can't just open portals to other spheres. That's just unheard of, basically.
Yep. And some of the events that are going to transpire here, or that have transpired, are going to kind of point us in the direction why they're so interested in Syria in particular. So to help with this, this entire kind of cavalry raiding other worlds activity. It doesn't seem like a good word, but it is a thing. They wore skeletal armor and made to look extremely threatening, and used exclusively black steeds, and on occasion used the ship Naglfar, which had the distinct ability of being able to float on the air, just to intimidate people. Just to scare them. And to further this, they used projections to appear more spectral, which led to this belief of them being wraiths and specters that, gallop across the sky, because they would make themselves look that way. Just be more scary. Right. And then they would grab people.
Right. Because if you don't believe that these are like mortal beings, then you don't even think that you can mount any defense against them.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy if you come galloping out of the clouds looking like terrifying specters. If the group of 10 humans bows down to you and submits to your will because they're too scared to do anything.
They're just terrified.
That's easy. Just grab and go, you know,
like these ghosty spectral things are just coming after me. Rather than I'm going to, you know, pull out my, you know, whatever I have in front of me. Chances are they're like farmers or whatever, you know, like
pull out my shovel
and try to hit the thing in front of me. If it's just, you know, if it looks like a ghost, then you probably can't even hit it. You know, like you're not a witcher. What are you going to do against this thing? You don't know.
Exactly.
Right. So you just, don't hurt me. And then they come and grab you and take you away.
Yeah. So, after some time, however, the unicorns managed to take the gate away, and the elves lost their access to space-time travel and were only able to partially recover it in the form of special mages known as navigators. But the navigators were only able to open portals for small numbers of riders, which severely impacted their ability to gather like large groups of slaves. So if you're sitting in like an entire like cavalry force of like 100 and you're limited down to like what we see in the Wild Hunt, I mean, we see like 5-10 at a time walking around. Like this is a significant difference. And so they changed their tactics and enhanced these spectral projections to such a level that they usually only traveled in this form and rarely used or really turned corporeal only when it was absolutely necessary to do so. And they were still able to secure a decent number of slaves, even with this like limitation
through like intimidation, appearing like they were larger numbers than they actually were.
Yeah. And that's when they were given a more intimidating name of the Wild Hunt.
Well, you know, it seems like it was working out for them because, I mean, as far as we know, this myth in the continent had gone around for a long time. And from what I understand, this was kind of a story that was passed around for a lot of people. They, in fact, some people thought that this was kind of a seasonal event, that this was like a natural occurrence, that this was just something that, you know, this is just a thing that happens in the world and hopefully it won't happen this year. And, you know, like, who knows? And there's all sorts of rumors about like this being something that occurred for who knows what reasons, you know, like this was because of our sins or because of just the changing of the weather, or, you know, like people came up with all sorts of weird reasons for the justification of what this was. And of course they were wrong because they didn't know actually what it was. And oftentimes even characters like Geralt would just dismiss it outright. Like, this is just a myth. What are you talking about? Right.
Even I believe he even does so in season 2, like episode 1 is, I think, because what's his name? I forgot his name. The beast guy.
In episode 1,
Nivellen talked about how he saw them like gallop across the sky, and Geralt's just like,
sure, whatever.
It's like he dismisses it, so it's
this is a thing, sure, whatever, if you say so.
So they went on like this for hundreds of years, raiding different worlds, but they tended to favor the world of the continent, or the Anshi, where the population of humans was ideal for grabbing slaves.
Okay, wait. So let's pause. Why do you think this was? It was because there was a lot of them? Was it because they were actually kind of dumb? Like, probably like because
probably all of the above. I mean, they got. I would guess to think that they probably didn't want to grab like other elves. Specifically, like they didn't want to grab the elves from this world, but like they weren't like, the elves here were being like they're not subdued essentially, because like there's such the high population. I mean, we see it in the shows, right? Like the elves are struggling for their survival,
right?
While the humans are thriving,
right?
They're like fully thriving.
But at the time, they're not advancing technologically very well. Their societies are not advancing socially very well. The humans are living, for the most part, the majority of humans are living very much in poverty without much education. There's a lot of what's the word? Mythological belief. What's the word? They're just not educated. What's the word for that? Ignorance. There's a lot of ignorance among the population, so they can easily be misled with these, pictures of like haunted spirits in the sky coming after them. Like they don't have a way to really fight back.
And they weren't like, and I wonder, because they don't really go into this, obviously. We don't get to see much of like the interactions between like the races and stuff, like more personally, but I wonder if like the A and she was like, are familiar enough to like know that like the Wild Hunt is nothing but like elves that hopped off at the conjunction of the spheres. Whereas like the humans, even though the humans came to this sphere, they weren't on the continent yet because they like had to like come over it, even past that. Like they came from somewhere else, took ships, brought over here. So they weren't even like here on the continent at the conjunction yet. Whereas like they would know, like they would have logs and stuff like we saw in like the ancient Elven temple in season 2, where they have like the stories of the conjunction written out on the walls and stuff.
Right.
So I wonder if like, the A and she tell like bedtime stories about like, the A and L and the Wild Hunt or something. The people, their sibling elves that left and went other places, that kind of thing. Yeah. The levers. Yeah. So, but I think there's something to be said about the human population being just kind of easy pickings for them. Yeah. In general, especially when you play the game. I mean, think about most of the people you come across in the games. They're just like in the show, we see a lot of like well-educated humans because we're looking at a lot of mages and stuff. Right. The one that comes to mind in the game, she always comes to mind because she's so iconic. The pan lady.
The pan lady?
The pan lady. She wants you to go inside that house and get her pan back from the neighbor who was just using, it was like a spy who was using the soot to write letters, know?
Oh, yeah.
But like just how clueless she was.
Yeah. The majority of people in that world they just don't know anything. They're just so uneducated and just ignorant to the world. But anyway, we could go into that. We could do a whole episode about how the common people in the world of the continent are taken advantage of by anybody of any means of education, like multiple times throughout the stories, like all the time. And it's just frustrating to any of the characters who are trying to help them out, how just clueless they are. But anyway, before we get into more stuff, now's probably a good time to take a break because I have a feeling the story kind of turns here in a minute.
A little bit.
Yeah. And so why don't we save that till after the mid break, because we've got some patrons to thank and a review to read out. So we'll be right back.
Very well. Let us get this over with. Something has infested my vineyard.
Great. Let me go prepare my something oil then.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And thank you. A big thank you to all of our patrons, all 14 of you guys, and especially to Ben of Temeria and Bane the Hospitaller. I think I said that right this time, because they are our higher vampire tier 5 patrons. And because of all of you guys helping us hit this goal, Toasty has a new hair color. Yep.
Thanks.
And he bared the burden, and you guys should stay till the end after the closing credits, because you'll hear our conversation at the beginning, which I will put at the end of the show, about his awesome experience at the hair place and how they had to stay 2 hours late in order to help him finish his hair stuff. And really, seriously, go to our YouTube channel, The Witcher Lorecast on YouTube, And drop it a sub, subscribe to the channel. You can watch our faces and see people's chats pop up while we talk. But yeah, go check out his hair. It looks great. But big thanks to all of our patrons. And if we help you get through your workday, your drive to work, your workout, or dyeing your hair for 6 hours, then go to patreon.com/Witcher Lorecast and you can get ad-free episodes. You can join us on future episodes of the show. You can get t-shirts or stickers. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do. And no, I'm not going to go dye my hair, two girls. That's not going to happen.
Do it.
No. My hair is so dark. It would take me all day as well. And it would look really bad. Like me with my hair. I'll just look like I'm old at this point. Everyone would just be like, wow, you got old real fast. And I'd be like, yeah, I did. But thank you to our patrons. We also have a review to read out. This one's short and sweet. Locho Walker in Australia, on the other side of the world, wrote in on Apple Podcasts and wrote, good stuff. Awesome podcast, guys. I love listening to it while I'm working. Cheers, guys. Nice and sweet. Look at that. So easy. Real quick review. And if you want to help us out, please write in a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and we'll read it out on a future episode of the show. Thank you, Locho Walker. And also, you can leave us a rating on Spotify or any other podcatcher. If you listen on other podcatchers that give you the ability to do that, we would really appreciate it. It helps a ton. And that's all we got for the middle of the show this week. We're going to get back to the rest of the episode, and a big thanks to all of our patrons. Here we go.
You smell of death and destiny, heroics and heartbreak.
It's onion.
Right, yeah.
All right, here we are back with the rest of the Wild Hunt discussion. Toasty, when did the Wild Hunt usually appear? Do they have kind of a regular time frame? Like, how long did they stick around? How did that kind of work out?
Typically, the Wild Hunt would appear during the winter, and the raids sometimes even lasted for months, where they would travel the entire continent in order to find their victims.
I would assume winter, because it's like darker months, right? Probably.
Definitely adds to that spookier feel.
Yeah.
And plus, I mean, we know at least from Witcher 3, their association with the white frost,
the cold.
So it definitely helped. I mean, it's harder to. I'm trying to think of that. I guess if they don't have to worry about the cold, in the sense, like, they're not worried about it because they're super powerful elven mages. Everyone's like kind of holed up for the winter. Like, you can't really go anywhere. Like, you kind of, I guess, easier pickings. Like, if
people are isolated, they're kind of locked down.
5 feet of snow outside. You can't go running down the hill and make it hard. You're stuck.
Yeah. And if you don't hear from somebody for like a month, you don't wonder about where they are, because it's winter. They're holed up at their home.
Yeah. And it definitely adds that spookier feel, galloping and like super powerful blizzard blowing, and then just these spectral forms appear out of the snow. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It definitely adds
big,
to that
creepy
freakier.
Skeleton horses come out of the fog, and you're like, oh, this is not a natural fog.
Yeah.
We're screwed.
Every raid was led by Aridin himself, who people started to call the King of the Wild Hunt. And they believed him to be an extremely powerful spectral king who stole the souls of his victims, which, not entirely correct, but, might as well have. I mean,
he stole the lives of his victims.
Yeah, he stole you. He stole his victims from this world. So, it definitely could seem that way. And every appearance of the hunt was feared and considered to be a bad omen, like an omen of war, like a comet. And so this even had a big impact on some cultures. So in Skellige, who they took to calling them the Wraiths of Morhogg, and they believed that they were this army that would reappear at the end of the world that they called Ragnarug, which for some that might be familiar with kind of Norse mythology here, Ragnarok, the end of times, essentially.
Right. That's totally a pull from Norse mythology. Right?
Yeah, they're definitely very Norse inspired, I think. I mean, like between their ships and the culture and everything, like, very much so.
Also, if ever this podcast gets big enough and like the Robots Radio Network gets big enough and we have a big event where we get a lot of people together and we have like a hot dog eating contest, and we need to title the winner of the hot dog eating contest the Wraith of Morhogg. That'll be the title of the winner.
I quit. I'm done. No, that'll
be the title of the hot dog.
That was especially dad humor. I was
hoping to get like Robots Radio Fest going this summer, like having but I still don't know.
Oh dear God, that was like the most dad humor joke you've ever made, I feel like.
But yeah,
like on this podcast, maybe not on other ones,
maybe not ever.
On this one, yeah, definitely.
But can you imagine like we all get together for a big conference, like a big like Robots Radio Con? Everybody comes to Florida, like in like June or something. That would be super cool. We could have like live podcasting and people play video games and board games together, or like tabletop games together. We go swimming and go to the beach, and then we could have a big hot dog eating contest called the Wraiths of Morhogg, and then the winner could be the King of the Wild Hunt, or just the Wraith of Morhogg, because he ate the most hot dogs.
Why hot dog? What the heck?
Like a hog.
Anyways, back on topic. And according to Skelligan legends, the Naglfar, that big floaty ship, was made of the toenails and fingernails of the dead, which led to a practice of ceremonial removal of nails from their dead.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty nasty.
They didn't want to contribute to the Naglfar.
Oh, that's gross. Or the Queen of the Hunt. Yes, two girls. Yes, yeah. King or Queen.
Queen of the Hunt.
I was thinking Aridin specifically, but yes, Queen of the Hunt, or just the Wraith of Morhogg. That works either way, right? Anyway, go on.
And like you were saying before, in some situations, the hunt did not raise a very strong curiosity amongst inhabitants of the world, who some viewed it as a sort of natural phenomenon like storms or earthquakes, and thus something out of people's control. Many also falsely believed that the hunt only came during winter. Fortunately, there were some exceptions, which, like, they like to use the winter. They did it pretty often, but it wasn't like all the time. And over the years, a few mages studied the hunt and its patterns and tried to figure out what they really were. In Nilfgaard, there was an entire school of witchers opened and dedicated to the mysteries of the wild hunt, the School of the Viper. The school contained a vast library full of texts and books concerning the hunt, but the school was later dissolved. Also, some of the individuals abducted by the hunt managed to escape and return home. However, these individuals learned that time had moved much slower on their end, and the people they once knew were either dead or extremely old.
Oh, dude, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Difference of time in different spheres. Oh,
yes. Man. And furthermore, there's stories about an elven world with unicorns that was dispelled as them being crazy, and they were considered insane.
So, Jerry, where have you been all this time? I was abducted by a bunch of elves pretending to be ghouls floating in the sky, and they took me to their homeworld, which has unicorns. And they locked me up for centuries. Sure, Jerry. But you were only there for 10 years, but it was centuries on our world? Yes. Okay.
How the hell they know Jerry then?
Okay. Because he told them his name was Jerry.
Okay.
And I'm your great-great-grandchild? Uncle, grandfather? Why are you my uncle?
But it was for this reason that the Wild Hunt's origin and purpose remain hidden to most, because they just didn't believe him. And I actually have some like real world mythology about the Wild Hunt to talk about, which was pretty cool.
Drop us some knowledge, Toast.
Drop us some knowledge. So I got a couple sources here. So one of these sources, NorseMythology.org, talk about the Wild Hunt, which was recorded in folklore all throughout ancient, medieval, and even early modern Europe, but was especially concentrated in the Germanic lands of Northern Europe. Often, or in some places, known as the Terrifying Ride or Odin's Hunt.
For those Terrifying Ride.
Yeah, Terrifying Ride. In Middle High German, it was Odin's Army, Furious Inspired Army. It had a lot of different names, a few of them associated with Odin. And essentially, they swept through the forest in midwinter, coldest, darkest part of the year, when ferocious winds and storms howled over the land. Anyone who found him or herself out of doors at night during this time might spot this ghostly procession and might even be carried away or dropped miles from where they had been taken. Others, practitioners in various forms of magic, would join it voluntarily as an intangible part of them. A soul, if you like, flew with the cavalcade while their body lay in their beds as if sleeping normally. Sometimes the members of the hunt entered towns and houses, causing havoc and stealing food and drink. It was like, your soul just like leaves you to join this like spectral hunt.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of different, according to this, there's a lot of different possibilities for the leader of the Wild Hunt. Several.
Oh, I like these names. Can we try and pronounce these?
Okay, cool. We got.
Let's take turns. Berta,
which is like the same but it doesn't have an H in it.
Yeah. Holt.
Hulda. Faust. Selda.
Him.
Herla.
Berchtold.
Or Berthold. Oh gosh, a lot of names.
Yes.
But one of the more common figures that was closely associated was Odin, the god of the dead, inspiration, ecstatic trance, battle frenzy, knowledge, ruling class, and creative and intellectual pursuits in general. It's very interesting. Which one of the things that was actually described, and I didn't put in the notes, but sometimes people describe the Witcher's Wild Hunt as their horses would sometimes have 6 legs, which I believe Odin, his horse, has 6 legs, I believe, in the mythology. He has like a special horse that has 6 legs.
That's too many legs.
Yeah. So obviously there's some real close associations with Odin here. And essentially all this leads to the fact that the Wild Hunt is closely connected with the dead in the underworld. And we're even associated with things such as like dogs and horses, which I'd like to point out. What are the 2 animals that they make the most use of in The Witcher? Because they ride their spectral horses and then you get often attacked by the hounds.
Or like a hunting party, like would be comprised of people on horseback with dogs.
Yeah. Right. So it all really relates to dead, the winter, stuff like that. And this other source that doesn't want me to read things because it's blocking me.
Oh, weird. I can open it up. I can see it.
I just have a bunch of things that are blocking my text here. It's not great.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah. If you make it large, it's like the website is poorly optimized, so it overlays. Make it wide.
I have it smaller because I want to see. Yeah.
It says here, what is the Wild Hunt? Across Central, Western, and Northern Europe, the Wild Hunt is a well-known folk myth of a ghostly leader and his group of hunters and hounds flying through the cold night sky, accompanied by the sounds of the howling wind. The supernatural hunters are recounted as either the dead, elves, or in some instances, fairies. In the northern tradition, the Wild Hunt was synonymous with great winter storms or changes of seasons. So again, associated particularly with changes in season or specifically winter. Yeah.
Sorry, I just saw here that it mentioned Odin's horse, that the specific name, Sleipnir, which I believe it had 6 legs. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
8 legs. Sorry, 8 legs instead of 4, but multiple legs on the horses was a common theme here.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in this article. Some of the most interesting parts, it talks about the leader, Odin, also called Woden. That's common in myths. Sometimes there's a W at the beginning. Again, it mentions some of the different names. This is interesting here. Regional versions. So clerics in the 12th century Britain reportedly witnessed the Wild Hunt. They claimed there were 20 to 30 hunters in the party, and the hunt continued for 9 weeks. One of the things you noted earlier was that oftentimes the hunt would continue for long periods of time. The early reports available of the Wild Hunt generally represented the participants as diabolical, whereas in later medieval retellings, the hunters became fairies instead.
He dressed them up all nice.
Yeah. The legend's origin, some believe, may be related to the Dandy Dogs, and that's italicized like the name of a book. In the tale, Dando wanted a drink of water, cursed his huntsman for not having any, and was then offered water by a stranger. The stranger stole Dando's game and Dando himself, causing his dogs to give chase. Another version focuses on King Hurla, who had just visited the Fairy King. The king was told not to dismount his horse until the greyhound he carried had jumped down first. 3 centuries passed, and his men continued to ride as the dog had not jumped down yet. All of these... Have you read, like, Grimm's fairy tales? Like, the original versions of, like...
I've never
Brothers
read
Grimm,
them, but I've heard a lot of them, and I did see that... I can't remember in which article there was mentioned in this that some of these were related to, it's actually in this article. Grimm postulated the story inevitably changed from pre-Christian to more modern times. So it seemed like there's some inspiration from this in one of his tales, but I've never read them, but I have heard some of them, and know like the key differences to some of like the more popular oents compared to like modern.
So I spent a lot of time in libraries like a decade ago when my went through a divorce and then ended up visiting my daughter in the middle of the week because I moved to a different town than the one that she and her mother lived in, and I would, in the middle of the week, I would always visit and take her out for dinner, and then we'd like go to the library and work on her homework and stuff. And as she got older, she needed less of my help working on her homework, but we'd still go to the library, so she had time to work on her homework, and then we'd go out to dinner. And so I had a lot of time in a library, and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with all this time in a library? So I'd always find something to read at the library. And one time I was like, well, let's actually go check out the Brothers Grimm. And I found a book that contained the original translations of the old stories, not like the Disney ones, like the old original ones. And man, that stuff is weird. Like if you want to read some weird crap, go find a big old, like it's like the size of an old tome. There's a bunch of stories and they're super weird. And, they've been pieced together from like a bunch of old manuscripts, and some of them don't even make sense because they're pieced together from variations of like folklore and like even the Brothers Grimm themselves, when they put the stories together, pieced the stories together from a few different variations of like stories that other people told them. They weren't written down stories. So the stories, like the first half of this, like the story will make sense in a certain order. And then all of a sudden the second half of the story will be completely different. And all of a sudden we'll have biblical characters in it. It just doesn't make sense. Like,
what the heck?
Yeah, they're not just all the stories that you think of from like Disney tales. It's all sorts of weird stuff.
I know there's like the big ones that I've like heard specifically, like Hansel and Gretel,
right?
And
like the ones that you
Hood.
could name off the top of your head, but there's a bunch of them that are things like you'd never think of, like the boy in the bucket and his horse. You know, like just like what is that? I don't know. And but like a lot of this kind of stuff sounds like like this idea of like they're still riding because the horse never jumped, the dog never jumped off the horse. Like for some reason in that culture that had significance. and we're no longer in that culture, so we don't understand that on the level that they do. And like, if ever you get a chance and you're just bored, you want to go listen to or go check out, I'm sure there's probably a podcast where somebody actually talks about these old stories. Go check that stuff out, because it is super interesting. And a lot of this stuff in The Witcher has its origins in a lot of these kinds of stories. Super weird, super cool stuff.
I know I did. And I guess it kind of makes sense more in this situation, because I can't remember exactly where I saw it whenever I was like kind of doing a bit more like looking at other sources and stuff. But I did see mention that like the Wild Hunt, the leader of the Wild Hunt has like varied in so many times that even like in some situations it has like biblical characters leading the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So like Cain or the devil, instead of like Odin or, you know, any of these names that we mentioned before.
Right.
So
and
like,
it's because there's an oral history to a lot of these stories, and a lot of the stories go back so far that they started in the culture during pre-Christian times. So it was the influences from the original stories were during these like pagan god type stories like Odin, whatever. And at some point Christianity came into the culture and the stories got passed into some sort of Christian tradition. And so they started inserting Christian myth into that story. So all of a sudden the characters transformed into these Christian variations, but the people who were telling the stories weren't educated like priests and people like that. So they were inserting these Christian characters in ways that didn't always make a lot of sense. So a lot of it's like super weird. Like the way that they insert like these Christian characters are like really, really strange. Like all of a sudden, like John the Apostle shows up and has a conversation with the devil. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is there too. And it's like, what? Huh? What? Like, how does any of this stuff coincide with anything? It doesn't. But they're figures that represent ideas that kind of match previous characters from the original story. It's super weird.
I mean, yeah, it's really interesting to see on here, like how many, I guess, different like cultures this, like the Wild Hunt is like prevalent in some ways. I mean, we talked about like the Norse Scandinavian with like Odin and stuff. It mentions in this article in Scotland, they align them to the fairy world so that they believe the Wild Hunt to be Slua or members of the Unseelie court. And they flew away to capture dying souls. So, and then it even has different ties into like paganism, which is prevalent in The Witcher because there is specifically in the books them celebrating Beltane. So it's interesting to see how many different like variations on the Wild Hunt it is. And I mean, it's obvious to see where like their particular, I guess, inspiration comes from, because we know that they pull the majority of their stuff from like the Polish, Scandinavian, like
Eastern folklore. Yeah. You know, what's interesting is I haven't in any of this stuff, haven't seen connections to the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, like speaking about like Christian connections to that none of that is actually connected through to this.
I feel like that probably is, like, I feel like that has to be though, right? Like this came like, assuming I'm not like a history buff or anything, but this is all like prevalent stuff before Christianity was even a thing, right? So
well, yeah, like, I mean, you have the spread of Christianity through Europe in a during early, like, you know, the early centuries of Roman involvement in Europe, and then continually through, you know, the AD eras, right? But a lot of these mythologies come from even earlier, and not every culture, especially in some of the more remote parts of Europe, were necessarily Christian. And a lot of those cultures held on to their old myths, their old traditions, and mixed them together with Christian beliefs. A lot of them ended up with these weird amalgamations of combinations and things. So it's very complicated the way that stuff actually came through.
Yeah, I just did a little quick search actually because I was curious. it doesn't seem like there's any, at first glance, I'm not finding anything, or maybe I'm just not typing the right terms where they are, but there are definitely some people that have had these thoughts, a couple like Reddit posts and stuff about how they are, which, I mean, it definitely makes sense. I mean, in terms of like, they definitely fit the theme of war, at least like the Horsemen War, because I mean, their whole point was to like, they're conquesting other worlds and taking people, like they're waging war on other worlds, essentially.
Right. The idea that they're foreshadowing strife and war and those kinds of things.
They foreshadow like disasters and things. So like a plague or just death in general, like things that they definitely can see all of the themes lined up here with it. So
yeah, but these themes are older than the representations of the themes, which is another thing I find interesting, because the themes came before the representations of the themes. And the representations of the themes come about individually in each of the cultures in their own ways. And it just happens to be the representation of horsemen. And I think that there's something similar in the Horsemen being when you were either going to hunt something or you were going to communicate something at long distance, you did so by horse. So it makes sense that two remote cultures would have used horsemen as the same symbology for the theme of the idea of warning somebody of something coming.
It also seems like in multiple cultures, horses have a closer relation to death. I saw something about that where I wonder why that is. The horses are, there's the reason why, and it might have just been the Witcher thing where they talked about using them horses because they were more closely associated with death. So
I wonder if that's like a theme or what the reason is for that association. That's interesting. I don't know. We'll have to, if anybody listening knows about the roots of the association of horses with death. I don't know why that is. Oh, well, that Google search does not help me. It's just a bunch of horse obituaries. Yeah. Huh. So, well, we're hitting the end of our knowledge here, but if you guys have any more knowledge about any of this stuff, rather than turning this into Google search the podcast, please let us know. Log on to our Discord, the Robots Radio Discord. Let us know your thoughts on this. And especially if you have some references and you can be like, actually, here's some really cool information about some more associations on this stuff. We'll reference some of the stuff that you guys have that you can share with us, especially if you, not just like speculation, if you have some like hard and fast, like, hey, I did some research, or especially if you have like an actual background in this kind of thing. Like if you have a degree in, mythology or like ancient literature or something like that, that would be really cool if you can share some knowledge on this. We'd love to highlight it on a future episode. But Toasty, this has been awesome, dude. This is some really cool stuff. I love getting back into the lore bits of our podcast. Where do you think we're going to go next week? Should we do another monster episode? I mean, this is kind of a monster.
This seems
kind of a lore thing. It's kind of just
kind
a deep
of
lore
monster,
thing.
kind of people, like kind of a weird mix of both. We should probably, we should probably do. I wouldn't classify this as a bestiary episode, even though it is in the bestiary in the Wild Hunt, or not? Yeah, in the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, technically. But
right.
I think this doesn't exactly fit. I think this is more of like a force, an entity. There's people. We're talking about like an historical stuff.
It's a lot of everything all kind of combined together. Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
All right. We'll figure out. If you have some thoughts on what we should do next week, let us know. Toasty, you got anything going on you want to share before we head out?
The usual stuff. Friends.
Fiends. Ben of Tamaria wrote a word that looks like friends monster. At first.
Friends. You're right.
The TV show Friends is the worst monster.
That is the worst.
That is the worst monster. It's true.
They haunt me, especially the clapping part in the theme song.
Yeah, they make each of them make $2 or $20 million a year on reruns.
Friends reruns because
Yes.
they never stop playing it.
Yes, and because at some point later in the run of the show, they all got together and negotiated for like shares of the actual show itself. Because what's his face, the actor Ross, coordinated with them and convinced them all to do it. So during the run of the show, they each made $1 million an episode for like the last 2 seasons. But then they negotiated actual like ownership, like part ownership of the show. And the show makes more money in like reruns than it ever did during the actual airing of the show. So even today, so many people watch that in streaming services and things. David Schwimmer. Yeah, that's him. That they make, each star makes about $20 million a year off that show still.
That's insane.
That's insane. Anyway,
you don't have to.
Little known fact.
Again.
Yeah, like what else have they done with most of their careers? Not a whole lot, because they're just swimming in money. Yeah. Anyway,
somehow, I mean, Jennifer Aniston's done a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, some of them are a little bit more into acting, kind of doing
not
stuff.
important.
But for the most part, they don't have. They can only do the things they really want to do. You know, if they feel like doing a thing, they'll go do it. They don't have to.
Like every movie or show that they do now is just I want to do.
It's
this.
an I want to project.
To do this.
Yeah, it seems like a good script. I like the director. I guess I'll go do that one. Yeah.
So yeah, just the usual stuff. Follow us, the Witcher Lorecast on Twitter. Nothing much else going on right now.
Cool. Yeah, I streamed this morning. Had a lot of fun. A lot of people came by, played Elden Ring, and got my butt kicked, and then I kicked some butts. We did it.
How I want to know how much have you progressed on that? I haven't played it. I haven't bought it. I've been following a lot.
Good.
So.
I think I'm a good 20 something to 30 hours in, and I've progressed a significant amount. I think my character's about level 40, maybe 40ish. And I beat a lot of bosses. I'm getting close to the end game. I haven't found nearly everything. There's tons of stuff to do in that game.
I see a lot of stuff in that game. So you haven't fought Melania then?
Nope.
Okay. I've been seeing a lot of stuff. That fight.
Yeah.
Looks insane.
She's nuts. Yeah,
she's never known defeat, and for good reason.
Yeah, no, she looks nuts. No, I'm still having a good time leveling up and just finding things and fighting stuff. And it's one of those games that's fun to take your time on because there's so many fun places to go and explore and secrets.
You done any fun builds or anything?
My character is a mostly strength. And then I've got a little bit of faith, so I can like throw fireballs and stuff when I need to. And then I've got a good amount of like health and stamina. Mm-hmm. So
I saw a Darth Maul build that I have to try if I play that game.
Okay, so I tried to go that direction at first, and the double blade thing is cool because it does hits really fast. The drawback is that it doesn't have a long reach, and it also doesn't stagger enemies because it doesn't hit very hard. So you can chunk a lot of health off quickly, but if you're not staggering things, then you're not going to keep them from hitting you back.
Oh,
so it's good against a lot of smaller enemies, but like the big enemies that you really want to get stagger hits on, it just doesn't knock them around enough. So I switched off from that to like some bigger weapons. That's why I actually started with a dexterity build, because those weapons are more higher dexterity. And then I switched off of it and started going more strength. Because I had the same thought. I was like, oh, that looks badass. And then I was using like twin blades with like fire on them and stuff. And I was like, this is cool. And then I started getting my butt kicked and I was like, okay, maybe not. And then I found Wolverine claws. There's freaking Wolverine claws.
There's a lot of weapons. There's a lot of weird weapons in these games.
There's freaking Wolverine claws. And those were cool, except the same problem. There's not a whole lot of reach, but you can like lunge at stuff. Like you can do like the Wolverine thing where he lunges and crosses his arms and just like that X/ thing. It looks freaking cool. Anyway, the game is great. It's one of those games that just playing the game is a lot of fun. You know how sometimes you play like these open world games and the reason you keep playing is because you just want to get through it? Have you ever had that feeling of just like, well, I'm this far into the game. I kind of know what the gameplay loop is. I'm kind of ready to be done with it. So now I just want to finish it. You ever feel like that?
Yeah. Like anytime I'm like, hey, maybe it'd be fun to jump back into Skyrim.
Yeah, there's always, but yeah, like for different people, there's different games that you just kind of feel like, I kind of know what the gameplay is going to be like now. I just kind of want to finish it at this point. Like, I never have that feeling with this game after as many hours as I'm in now. It's more of like, I can't wait to figure out where the next thing is, or to see, like, every dungeon I'm in feels different. Like, there's lots of tricks up their sleeve. I never know what's going to go. You find weird enemies everywhere. Anyway, we'll talk about this off stream, but definitely a game worth checking out. Especially if you like weird monsters and stuff, which is appropriate for a Witcher podcast. Weird monsters, weird locations, all sorts of cool stuff to hunt down and kill. So cool stuff. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. Also, Lord of the Rings Lorecast is out there if you want to go check it out. 3 episodes in, should be available on all of your podcatchers, whatever you're listening to this on. And I'm going to try and do some more daytime streams whenever I can. So come hang out with me on the Robots Radio channels, streaming on everything: Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Looking forward to it. We'll see you next time. And until then,
stay safe on the path.
See you guys later. Thanks for tuning into the Witcher Lorecast. We'd love to hear about your experiences with the games and the books and the TV series and all your thoughts on everything. Please check out the Robots Radio Discord and follow us on Twitter at Witcher Lorecast.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
I tried to get him to have like the lamp over his head to make it look even more glowing and white.
See it though.
You can. The whole room's like blue, but if you put more light on it, it looks more impressive. Just trying to.
It's fine.
Trying to make it look as cool as I can.
It's fine.
Just making it look good, man. The majestic locks of Toasty.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not. There's never going to be another hair dyeing goal for anything ever in my life. I don't give a shit. Not because I hate the hair. I hated the process.
The process sucks, dude. Yeah.
The process was so fucking bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's no fun. Nice. That's fun, Ben. Hey, Rob. Look at that guy over there. That way. Recording more tomorrow. Cool.
I just hate.
Yeah, my mom used to do nails for a living. So she worked at a hair and nail salon very close to my high school. So my friends and I would walk over and borrow the car, and we have to walk through the salon as high schoolers in the early and mid 90s with our like cool grunge looks and our long hair and stuff. And all the ladies in the salon would always, check out what we were doing. And so I got to, see all the hair stuff. And
I probably am going to keep the facial hair because it's darker. They had to make it darker because my hair got to the point where it was just like it wouldn't go any more lighter, like it wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So they had to go a little bit darker because it wasn't as light as they needed it to be. So
untoasted.
I'm not untoasted. Mm-hmm. It's not true at all.
Have you worn it to work yet?
Yes, I have. I had to wear it to work the next day.
Yeah. What they say?
They were very shocked.
Uh-huh.
But like I kind of had told them, so they weren't like too shocked. Mm-hmm. Which I just started at a new fucking place. So it's like
they were like, who's this weirdo?
Yeah, it's like been there for like 4 days. I'd worked there 4 days, and then it was like bam.
Perfect.
Different hair.
Perfect.
So no. So this is I went there at 1:30, right? Mm-hmm. 1:30 this past Saturday. And I didn't leave that place until 7. But you know what the real funny part was? The real funny part is that this place closes at 5 on Saturdays. I was there for 2 hours.
You made them stay late.
Closed.
Oh no!
There was 3 of them working on my hair after 5:06 when the last customer left.
Oh no!
Yeah, they were like just that shit was crazy.
That's cray. That's so
they weren't
cray-cray.
mad, but like, God, and it's expensive. I'm not like that. That alone, the money alone is reason enough not to do that shit. Because it was $266.
Yeah.
I gave them $350 because like you're supposed to tip them pretty well, and there was like 3 ladies that worked on my fucking hair, so it was like, I mean, I gotta give like the other 2 a little bit of something. You know?
Oh man. Well, hopefully our patrons stick around for a few months.
Hopefully, it'd be appreciated.
Yes. Oh man.
I mean, fuck. I'd rather go get a tattoo. Honestly, I'd rather go get a tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather go get like 7 tattoos than this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's true. Hey, at least it was fun.
Did you ever get your Fallout tattoo?
I never did. I never came up with the design that I wanted. I'm still happy to go to. Well, first of all, by the time it hit the goal, the pandemic hit, and then I wasn't going to go to a tattoo parlor during the pandemic. But then second, I've looked and looked and looked and I haven't found a design that I really like. So I just haven't, and I've asked around for people to help me find things, and I haven't found a lot. Well, I haven't gotten a lot of help with it, to be honest, but I also just haven't found a design that I really want. But I need to get one. So
they were the new project. I was the new project. I mean, like the lady that I got was so excited because like I had never done anything with my hair ever.
Yeah.
Like, it's a transformation. We're gonna. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Right.
To be honest, like that was a little painful because she was a personality type that I just did not mesh well with.
And then you had to deal with small talk for hours. Small talk for like an entire afternoon. Oh, that's so fun. That's one of the reasons why I just don't like going to like salons and
sucks being an introvert and having to like
it's no fun
in public. It's
small talk is the worst. Honestly,
it'd be easier for me to get a tattoo. I don't mind, so like I don't give a shit. I have a tattoo, so like I don't care. I'll get other one. I have other tattoos that I want to get, so like this is not a problem for me to get a tattoo, honestly.
All right, well, hey, you want to start the show?
No, I want to bitch about my head. No, we can start the show.
I might leave this in the episode so everyone can hear the background story. I might put this at the end. Go ahead,
do it. Go look at the YouTube video if you're not at the live show, just so you can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put this in at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome. All right.
Triggered the small talk with strangers hate. There we go. Bam.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm not a fan of that either.
She was super nice, but I don't give a fuck. I just don't like people.
Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat. Sometimes people are just like the nicest people. They're like totally awesome people, but I'm just really not into small talk. Please, can we just not?
After a little bit, I was like, I realized I could get away with having an earphone in, so I was just like, I like put in my earphone and was just listening to like Critical Role Campaign 1. So.
Oh, nice. There you go.